So we have Danny Higginbottom as well as Tony Pulis for our YouTube exclusive here on Stadium Astro. Wout Weghorst announced as, of course, a short-term loan deal for Manchester United until the end of the season. Danny, I mean, maybe a name that doesn't get people off their seats, not the most exciting name in the world. So what was your first reaction when you found out that United were linked to Wout Weghorst? Did it seem like an Odion Ighalo sort of signing?
To a certain extent, yes, but I think with Ten Hag, you have to trust him because the signings that he's made so far have been excellent. I never really thought that they were going to spend big in January on a centre forward. Potentially they could do that in the summer. And I think what Weghorst brings is something a little bit different. You know, if United need to change the game around, they need that little bit of physicality through the middle, they can do that. And what you also have to look at as well, if Martial is injured or if he's out of form, then the likelihood is, on a normal day, you would probably put Rashford at centre forward. And I don't think that's his best position at the minute. So what you're doing, you're bringing in a centre forward for a short-term basis that can be a little bit of a difference maker, can bring something different when you're playing against a team that's giving you the width and says, okay, you can put crosses in. And it also probably gives Ten Hag more time to think leading into the summer where potentially they will then go bigger on a centre forward.
Can he be the difference maker, Tony? Because the last time we remember him playing in England, it wasn't the most prolific.
Yeah. I think United will use him at home when the teams drop off and play very, very deep and make it difficult for them. And like Danny says, you know, if they're allowing the space wide, if the games are tight and you're getting balls in the box, you're getting crosses, which this lad will need, then he is a threat. He'll have obviously more quality coming into the box the more he did at Burnley. He'll have more quality players around the more he did at Burnley. No disrespect to Burnley. So I think they haven't got the money to go out and splash massively this window. So as an option and give him something different, then yeah, fingers crossed he'll be good for Manchester United.
Do you think he fits into Ten Hag's style?
No, I don't think in what he wants to eventually get, he'll want pace and movement. Most top managers want pace and movement up front. But he is that player, as I've said, that if teams come to Old Trafford and they sit in and they get, 10 men behind the ball and they force you wide all the time, you can bring him on. If you're getting balls in the box, if you're getting crosses in the box and you're getting people in there, he can, whether he scores or whether one drops off him, and you get someone to follow him around, knowing that he'll drop off him, then he can cause teams problems. And fingers crossed, like I say, he will add to what Manchester United have got.
If you have a look at his presses per 90 as well, it seems to have ranked higher than the likes of Kulusevski or Lanzini, Danny.
Yeah, he does, but I don't think that really matters, presses per 90 minutes, because he's not, realistically, I don't think he's going to start too many games. So therefore, he's going to be, as Tony said, he's going to be more of an impact player. He's going to be, a scenario where, in particular at Old Trafford, like Tony said, where teams are going to sit deep, going to be compact and say, okay, we'll give you the width because, you've got Martial coming through the middle or Anthony or Fernandes. So crosses have to be exact and they have to be precise. Whereas if you've got a player like Weghorst who you can bring off the bench with 25 minutes left, something along the lines, then he can be a difference maker. And I also add to the fact of that this is a temporary signing for Manchester United, but it allows Marcus Rashford to stay in his best position. And then it also gives Ten Hag time to think and evaluate and say, okay, what do I want in the summer as in terms of a centre forward?
I understand it is short term, Danny. I understand that, but just looking at Wout Weghorst, a 30-year-old, someone that maybe a name that United wouldn't typically go for as well. And you'd think this was obviously rushed because of the Cristiano Ronaldo scenario, right? So that was a little bit unexpected. But you already had an idea that Cristiano was not going to stay for the long term. His contract was short as well. He was going to go. Wouldn't they originally have had a list of the sort of strikers that they would have wanted in, and if option A, B, C, D, and going down the list as well? Would you say, you wouldn't really say Weghorst was on that list?
Michelle, he's not a sexy signing. He's not one of them that all the crowd are going to jump up and shout and scream and that he's not that. What he is, he's an effective signing. He's a person who can come in. He's I know it's Manchester United, but let's be honest, it's cheap. But it adds to what they've got. He can, in games when they're tight and there's balls going in the box, balls going across the box, he can finish. He's got a good goal-scoring record for that. And like I say, you know, don't worry about what he didn't do at Burnley. I think at Manchester United, there's much more quality coming into the box, much more quality around him. And as a sub for the last 10 minutes, quarter of an hour in tight games, fingers crossed for Manchester United's sake, hopefully he will add that little bit extra to that group of players.
I also think, to add to that, is that first of all, I don't think Ten Hag, if in the summer he wants to sign a centre forward, I don't think he wants to sign an out-and-out centre forward. We saw they were linked to Gakpo that can play off the left, can play a centre forward. I think he wants a very, very much interchange in front three or front four. And I think if you're looking around at the moment for a centre forward who's available in January that you can get that's going to improve your team, there isn't one out there for Manchester United at the moment. There is no centre forward that's going to be available at the right price until the summer that you can look at and say, okay, he's going to make this Manchester United team stronger. Haaland obviously went to Manchester City. Sorry, Tony.
Danny, Manchester United have spent an absolute fortune over the past 4 or 5 years. For all what they've not done, they have spent enormous amounts of money. And they've made some, you know, their recruitment has been awful at times. And I mean awful. They've bought players who couldn't cope with the pressure of playing at top clubs. And they need to reset, and they've reset under the present manager. And he's done a fantastic job. They're on the right lines. They're moving the way that he wants to move. The supporters, the club, everything is moving in the right direction. And I really do think they'll just hold tight. They'll do all their recruitment in the next couple of months to make sure in the summer, when there's a better market out there, they will bring in the quality they need to move on again. I think, like you say, trying to get one or two of the top players now in Europe or wherever, you're going to have to pay through the nose. And I don't think Manchester United want to do that, Dan. I don't honestly think they want to spend enormous amounts of money this window. I think they're happy with the way things are going. Well, it's going fantastic at the moment. And I think they'll just wait, see it through till the summer, and then they'll have the players lined up.
Do you think Wout Weghorst will be the difference maker for United to make top four? Yes, no, Danny?
I personally think with or without him, they make the top four because I think they're in good form. I think they've got players that are difference makers off the bench. And I go back to what we originally said with Weghorst. He is a player that can be, I'm not saying he's going to be a difference maker, but he changes the whole dynamics of the team. I don't expect to get to the end of the season and say and see Weghorst has played 12, 13, 14 games. I expect him to maybe start 2 or 3 games, but his biggest impact is going to be coming off the bench late on in games where they're trying to hold on to a lead and teams are pressing and they want to go over the press to him, or there's a little bit of a struggle to break down opposition and he can be that difference maker. So regardless of whether he was signed or not, I believe that United would make the top four.
Tony?
Michelle, just quickly on him, if you can remember back to the World Cup where Holland played Argentina and then they brought the 3 big players on and they played forward and they scored a couple of goals quickly and he was involved in the goals. I think that's most probably what the manager's got in mind, is that if we're losing games and we need to throw a few more balls in the box, or if we're actually struggling to get the result that we need, we can put him on and we can get more balls in the box. And like me and Dan have said, it's different to what they've got. And it's something that, you know, is really different to what they've got, but it's something that could really help them, Michelle.
Well, you segued that perfectly for me as well, because I was just thinking about that Netherlands-Argentina game. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. The very first proper training session between Lisandro Martinez and Wout Weghorst as well. I wonder how that's going to go down.